Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome to Life Transformation UK, and today I'm going to answer the question of should you be going to therapy? Make sure to stick around to the end of this video where I will reveal the number one best trait that you should be looking for in your therapists, so that you can make the decision to hire the therapist that is going to work best for you and help you to move towards achieving your goals and transforming your life. Remember, if you do find this video useful, make sure to leave a like and a comment as well, letting me know how it is you're going to be taking action to transform your life today. And while you're down there, why not consider subscribing to the channel as well to receive more content like this on a regular basis. So a few years back, when I was really struggling with my depression and anxiety and a few other kind of hard issues, I decided that it was time for me to go and find myself a therapist. And what had really kicked me over the edge was shortly before Christmas time that year, I had been getting up to go to work and I had the worst panic attack of my life. It was so bad that in the moment I did in fact think that I was actually dying, that my heart was simply failing because I couldn't breathe. My heart seemed to be beating 200-300 times a minute, and the entire world seemed like an absolute catastrophe. So I did the only thing that a 22-year-old man would do when you suffer from an absolutely crippling panic attack, and I called my mum. And I went back to my parents' house and I stayed with them for a couple of weeks until I recovered. And once I had recovered from that entirely, because when the panic attack ended, the anxiety stuck around in a major way for quite a long time. So after a couple of weeks I went back to my flat in London, and I decided that it was time for me to seek out and hire a therapist. And you know, it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. I probably spent well over £1,000, maybe £1,500 in therapy fees over the course of the next year and a half. But it absolutely transformed my life in a major, major way. So to answer the question of should you go to a therapist right now, my go-to answer is yes, because a therapist, even if you aren't suffering from any kind of mental health issues like depression and anxiety, a therapist is still hugely helpful in getting ideas that are inside of your head out of your head and out into the real world, where they can be objectively looked at by almost a complete stranger, but a stranger whose only purpose is to help you overcome whatever obstacle is in your life in that moment. In about 20% of the actual sessions that I went to when I was seeing my therapist, we didn't even really talk about my issues. We talked about my view of the world, and I found that so helpful because I was able to get all of the thoughts that had been bottled up in my head for 20 odd years, and I was finally able to get them out in front of a person that I knew would not judge me no matter what I said. And she was so empathetic and patient towards me that alone was able to clear out so much of the negativity that was in my mind at that time, and I found that to be so helpful. So even if you're not going through any kind of major mental health issues, finding a therapist to speak to on a regular basis is just good for the mind. It's like having a journal that can talk back to you and maybe even give advice when you need to. Though the best therapists will never actually give you advice or tell you to do something, rather they will try to get you to understand for yourself the best way to move towards what it is that you actually want. And that's what my therapist did quite often. She used something called Socratic Questioning, where whenever I made a statement, she would just continuously ask why and how and when and what, until the idea was either fully kind of fleshed out or absolutely destroyed by her constant questioning about something which might not have necessarily been healthy for me. So she was absolutely fantastic with that, where I would come to her with a negative belief like, nobody likes me, everybody thinks that I'm boring, or something of that nature, and she would say something along the lines of, well, nobody likes you at all? And I'll say, well, obviously not nobody, you know, there's some people that likes me, and then she would say, so it's not nobody then, so who is it that you think doesn't like you? And I would be able to dig deeper, and over time usually what I would find out is that in reality I didn't actually know if this person liked me or not, because I can't read minds. And over the course of several sessions we would be able to completely unpack a limiting belief, crush it, and move on to the next one through that process of Socratic questioning. So therapists can act as an amazing sounding board for all of your internal thoughts that you might not be comfortable bringing to your friends, to your family, to your work colleagues. A therapist is completely objective, and once you have signed on with them, they are bound by the client counsellor kind of privilege. So whatever you say to your counsellor, to your therapist, they cannot reveal it to anyone else, unless of course you do something like make a direct death threat towards somebody, in which case then they would probably contact the authorities for your safety and for that person's. But I'm working on the assumption that that is not what you're going to therapy for kind of murderous intent. Rather, I'm assuming that most people are going to therapy because they are suffering from some kind of depression or anxiety or stress, or they simply just need to get what is within them off of their chest and out into the real world, where they can see it from all the angles and truly start to assess whether or not that is a set of thoughts or ideas that they actually want in their mind. So, what is the number one trait that you should be looking for when you are starting to work with a new therapist? So I've done a little bit of research on this, and I've even taken therapy skills courses, and I picked up bits and pieces of it while I was of course studying my psychology degree. But the best example of the best trait of a therapist or a counsellor I found was actually in my very, very first session with my therapist, where she told me that her job is not to fix me. Rather, her job is to teach me the skills and the techniques so that I could become my own therapist, so that once I left therapy, I would never have to see her again. Because ultimately, that is what a good therapist should want of you. A good therapist does not want you to be sitting in the chair across from them week in and week out. They want to be able to show you how you have all the resources that you need right now to move forward in your life and achieve your goals and be all that you can be. Ultimately, it doesn't serve you to be in therapy for the next 20 years of your life, nor does it serve the therapist either. You want to go to a therapist that does not want you to be there long term, a therapist that wants you to be able to learn how to best cope with the adversities that are within your own life and how to appropriately deal with them in the way that works best for you. So if you've got a therapist who is only really interested in influencing you and giving you advice from their point of view all the time and is always kind of making it about them, I would recommend dropping that therapist like a hot potato and moving on to find someone else. When you're initially looking for a therapist or a counsellor, I would recommend trying to arrange short calls and consultations with as many of them as possible to get an idea of who they are as a person, and then making your decision based on that. Now, I really lucked out with my first therapist, and I didn't know that I was supposed to do all this research initially the first time that I did it, but I was able to find, by sheer chance, somebody who really worked well with me, and I owe a lot of my progress and a lot of my life transformation to her. It's another reason why I want to build this channel, why I want to build this business, because I want to be able to email her or call her or go and see her one day and let her know that this is what she did for me, because she was a huge influence in my life. She made some huge impacts with me and was hugely instrumental in me changing my life. So to answer the question overall, do I think it's worth it to go to therapy? Should you go to therapy? Absolutely. Even if you're not suffering from any mental health issues, I would recommend going and seeing one anyway, just to clear out any of the cobwebs, any potential negativity or limiting beliefs that is in your mind. Therapists are amazing from pulling you out of your past and bringing you into your present. And ultimately, that is where you want to be. You want to be here and now so that you can work towards building a future that you are excited about and a future that's going to be meaningful for you. So if you have found this video useful and valuable, make sure to leave a like and a comment. Let me know what it is that you're going to be doing today to transform your life. And while you're down there, why not subscribe to the channel as well for more regular content just like this. But otherwise, I do hope that you have enjoyed this video. I do hope that you've taken some value from it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video very soon.